get it turned and pointed and flow through. And again, the different types of cars, a Legend to a Formula V to a Queensland production car to a replica Tourer and even a TA2, the approaches are all different through that part of the race circuit. But with that little grandstand down there, it's actually really, really cool viewing.
Well, we got to Rod and Kathy Lisson, who own and bring the truck all around Australia, support the Formula Vs, and they come from Western Australia as well. So they do a fair bit of travel. And I was talking to them last night.
That's further away than New Zealand.
I know. They put 4 cars in the truck, and then they've got a trailer that also takes 4 cars. So they can transport 8 of these cars around the country. I mean, big haul to keep going back and forth. I know they share some of the driving with some of the other people, so there'll be a couple that bring the truck over, and then someone else might bring the truck back.
That's commitment.
Incredible commitment to get these cars out there. Fantastic
so
race.
How long have these cars been around? Like, again, I'm relating back to my experience back in New Zealand with, it was originally called Formula B, they renamed it Formula First. So very, very similar cars. I think a lot of the cars over there tend to run the standard Volkswagen wheels rather than the aftermarket wheels that we see here in Australia. But there are some very, very swoopy body designs with some of these Australian-made Formula Vs over the cars on the other side of the Tasman, and a very, very good lineup. And a lot of motor racing drivers across the world, because this class also raced in the US, all right? A lot of very, very good motor racing drivers have progressed out of karts, and if they want to sort of maintain that open wheel thing, into Formula Vs, Formula Ford, and so on and so on. So yeah, that list would be huge. I already talked about Shane van Gisbergen in New Zealand, current Formula E Jaguar drivers Nick Cassidy and Mitch Evans, both raced Formula Vs in New Zealand, and again, the list here in Australia would be pretty impressive.
It definitely says a lot.
Definitely 50 years plus. In fact, it'd be more than that. I think I heard Dylan, when Matty Mack interviewed him a little bit earlier on, he was saying 65 years, which actually wouldn't be too far away.
No, it is around that, yeah.
Wow.
Over 60 years of racing these Formula Vs.
You wouldn't have thought there was a lot of these Type 4 1600 engines left.
Well, when you talk to them, they say things like the cranks and all that, they're all reproduction now. So you're going to get those parts to keep these motors, because obviously Volkswagen engine, and you know, that's a culture in its own, isn't it, Volkswagens? But it's the manifolds, the carbies, things like that bolt onto it, where, you know, and they talk about the different years and the different manifolds, and we're talking like 1 horsepower difference maybe. They're the little things that people have gone through the wrecking yard. Absolutely none left. But I think a lot of the things too with this is, when you have a look at the chassis design, is if they do have an impact and break something, they're actually quite easy to repair a section.
Well, they don't weigh anything for a start.
Well, with the driver, they're just over 500 kilos.
Oh, okay, it's actually heavier than I thought.
Depending on the driver.
So they're all running.
So with you and me, they could be a little bit more over 500 kilos.
I am.
With some people will be on the edge of 500 kilos.
That's a nice way of saying generously proportioned. Yeah. Thank you, Matt. So they're all running on a spec Dunlop tyre, so that's double duty if it does rain. Look at the different body profiles from that over to the top shop. Dylan Thomas, the last time we saw him, he was winning a TAT championship down in Victoria at the end of last year, and he's got a long history of racing these types of cars. So, you know, to try and do each round in a different race car this season with the High-Tech Super Series is going to be pretty cool to watch.
Well, just over 4 weeks ago, he was racing a TO2 muscle car in Sydney with the number 1 on the side. So
did you go from one extreme to the other?
Well, I think, you know, if you cut about a third of the car up, it's about the same way. Let's get the start underway. This is race number 1 here for the Formula Vs.
Oh, Dylan will be happy with that start. John Forsh would have been proud of that start. He's absolutely gapped them on the run down to turn number 1.
He very modest, isn't he? He said, I don't think I'll be the fastest. He said, we go out wide. I think we keep them on those tyres aren't as wide as what we see on some of the other categories. So they generally get through there okay as they come through turn number 3. Who's definitely not the brakes?
It's definitely not a big contact patch on the road, but again, we talk about, there's a big lock up there for the 71. That's Rod Lisson, 2010 Sabre. I think the Sabre chassis were a New Zealand-made one, unless it's an Australian version. But Sabre definitely in the New Zealand market with the Formula Firsts over there. So really looking forward to this battle, because this becomes up the front straight a drafting battle from the bottom side of the circuit with Formula Vs. And that's the cool part of the sport. And we've got some young drivers. The youngest driver that we've got out there is just 14 years of age. And
look at this, already an overtaking manoeuvre there by Kinsella, who's the four-time national champion.
Yeah, there's some championships.
You'd expect him probably be a favourite for this weekend as well. So
pretty sure
can only do so much.
Kinsella was the pole sitter, so qualified number 1 in the session earlier on this morning. Right, so this is where you just regroup and you're trying to pick where the car is faster than the others. Dylan's just lost that little bit of draft on the run past the start-finish line for the first lap of 10. Oh, and that's the 16, so that's, I'm pretty sure, down through the S's on the run up the hill by the looks of it. Saw a little bit of that yesterday in practice, where some of the drivers were definitely getting the approach to the S's or the flip-flop or the bus stop, whatever we want to call it down there, incorrectly.
Can we get the theme music going, the bus stop theme music?
16, Matthew Harriott. So here's a replay. Here's the big lock-up from the 71. It locked up the right front. He couldn't get it turned on the left front, and he's gone gardening out there. Not the place to be, but the Dunlops should be able to handle it.
At this point, Dylan Thomas is still leading, but he's had a fair bit of attack there. I mean, look at the 78 there of Reynolds. I mean, he's got 4 national titles as well.
That car
won all the races at last year's national round.
He won all of the races
at the national round.
National.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That's a very distinctive car as he's going to get an inside run and through to the lead. Look at the differing body styles. That's a lot longer in the front and bodywork-wise, a lot more streamlined than some of the other cars. It's quite a distinctive-looking car. And from my understanding, having a quick chat to some of the teams this morning, I believe only a couple of those have actually ever been made.
The Checkmate chassis.
The Checkmate chassis, there you go.
Well, it says it all, doesn't it?
Here's
here we go, challenge on.
Kinsella.
Dylan's getting a front row seat. He's got to watch out, though, because he's got Casely right behind in the number 7 as well.
That was tight. Oh, Kinsella didn't get a great run through 1. Say that 3 times fast.
So Dave Casely right behind Dylan Thomas from WA. This is 4 cars now that are going to be fighting to get on the podium, and not too far behind you can see McDonald and Westerhout.
Here's your top 6. A little bit of a gap back here. This should be Siebel in the number 80 as this battle now becomes a 4-way battle for the lead with the 7 of Casely. DMC. Oh, that was 30. That was Kinsella. That was Kinsella in the 35. Now, was there a touch there? Maybe. He was leading. They definitely made some gains. Oh, there was a 7.
Thomas ain't going to make this easy.
The 7 is he's filling Dylan Thomas's mirrors, if nothing else. So what happened with Kinsella? Was there contact?
Let's have a look at the high-tech
this might tell us.
Replay.
Oh, not a lot.
Was he loose before there was contact made?
Hard to see by that, but it just looked like there was a little interlocking of the wheels there and the 35 rotated.
We're not in race control, and that's for someone else to make a decision on. So we'll wait and see what we hear from that. Oh, Dylan Thomas, he's just dropped off the pace for a second there. Might have had a moment there, and he waves him through.
Well, okay, that's a carding deal. So Dylan's gone, yeah, okay, go through, I'm going to latch onto you, or he's got a problem. You go through, you're faster than me, and I'll try and go with you to get back to the front, is usually the goal. There was a little puff of smoke just on the down change up into 1-2. So Thomas now back into the 5th position.
So Michael Wester in the 38. Now he had some brake problems yesterday. It looks like they've got that sorted because the car is getting around.
Nice pass in the 3. Nice pass.
And those two together are actually Queensland based and probably the 2 fastest Queensland drivers we've got here this weekend.
Yeah, it's probably a circuit that they would be used to more so than some of the Western Australian teams and from down south. So I think you're saying Dylan Thomas is Sydney based?
Yes.
He'll be used to the weather.
He's not used to the car. It's a lot lighter than what he's been driving.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And with about 400 odd. I mean, what sort of horsepower are these things putting out?
I wouldn't expect a 1600, a stock 1600 Volkswagen engine to be doing a huge amount. It's got to be very similar to when you see XLs where people are going through the wrecking yards looking for manifolds and things that add 1 horsepower, and that's like 2% of your horsepower.
Well, I think an XL is probably 90 to 100, and I don't want to belittle these wonderful little Volkswagens, but yeah, it's not a lot.
No.
But as we're seeing here, how competitive is this?
It's 500 kilos.
So where's the 38 come from? A fair way back, and now we got them side by side, 2 deep, battling for 2nd, 3rd and 4th. Oh, there was definitely contact there in the 38. Didn't go around, but the 7 did, and he's trying to take out one of our high-tech signs.
Oh, we start the bingo.
And Dylan
Super
Thomas,
Series signs.
Dylan Thomas goes from 5th to 3rd in one foul swoop. So definitely a little bit of contact there as the cars were bouncing around, dancing around under brakes on the approach to 1. And that's now put a very, very different face on this race.
Well, Dylan Thomas might hold himself in for a podium here. See the number 69 up on our screen.
Second to the Westerhouts.
Yeah. So it'll be another Queensland-based car and looking to be under a little bit of fire in the background.
Callum Lamont in the distinctive yellow machine. Right, let's see what happens here. So the 38 of Casely's on the outside. Wow. Was there contact?
Oh, maybe the exhaust touched the front of the... I don't know if it's actually going to cause the car in front, or is it just... I'm not quite sure on the air of these cars, but that's going to maybe take a little bit away, wash a little bit of that away. Wouldn't be a lot of aero on them.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. Again, I think if you're going to try and survive on the outside into turn number 1, that's going to be a really, really tough pass to make and stick, especially on the approach to 2, which tightens up. 30 out there on shot. That's a beautifully presented little car. Yep, Mark around.
Queenslanders.
We've got a brother and sister team out there on debut this weekend. 14 and 16 years of age in the awesome colours. All right, there's again, look at those front profiles. 2 very, very different looking race cars bodywork wise. Martin Moran, and so that's a 1987 Elfin. Well, the Elfin chassis is synonymous in Australia. Formula 5000, Formula Ford, obviously Formula V. So that car dates back to 1987, Matt. Were you born?
Yes, I was.
Just?
Shows the test of time. I was young. Let's put it that way. Well, I was young in 87. I was fair bit of curve there for Dylan Thomas.
Yeah, definitely do not want to get on the curb.
Is he looking for work to do between rounds? Is he like,
well,
it's not busy enough?
Being so light and spindly, you don't want to be going bashing the curbs because it'll be knocking the wheel alignment out, and you run the risk of even hurting the shocks on the style of car. So you want to keep off the curbs. So here's Casella trying to come back in the 35. So he's still in the 5th position, and Casely's rejoined on track in the 6th position. So, like, it's hurt them, definitely track position-wise, but they are still up inside the top 6. Oh, the 7 runs off track up the hill out of the S's, and again, you do not want to do that too often.
Definitely not. All right, we'll wait as they come into the turn number 1. They've got to set themselves up, and they come into that. It's a couple of different ways. They're going to take turn 2 very wide on the outer ripple, not too wide. 3 here as you come over. It's pretty much a blind crest as you go round.
The biggest similarity between these cars and, say, karts is if you mess up, you do not have the horsepower to just spin the drive out of it, change your line. If you get sideways or you don't get the corner right, it just sucks all the exit speed out of it, and you basically spend the next probably 2 laps trying to get the momentum back up and gain all that lost ground of the car in front of you. So very, very similar to karting. The main differences being these cars have suspension, much bigger wheels, a little bit bigger than a kart, not that much.
No.
And like some of the early kart engines, air-cooled.
Yes, that's right. Well, we don't have the radiators in. There's nothing. The little air-cooled engine at the back. Very simple, I think it is. It's not an overcomplicated car. You don't need to make it overcomplicated. We look like someone's lost their nose. I'll be in looking for a bit of a nose job next weekend. Let's have a look at the High-Tech Oils replay. Oh, it's already just come off on its own, the looks of it.
Yeah, that
maybe grabbed something under the car, and that's
11 of Listen, another one of the Sabre chassis. Just a couple of laps left to go here.
Got themselves into a rhythm now, haven't they? You can start to see them just starting to spread out a little bit now, and I think tones down. We'll wait for the last couple of laps because this is where we could see some of those moments that people want to take a dive and take a risk, possibly to gain a position.
So Reynolds still in control out in front by about 4.7 seconds. Kinsella in the 35 set the fastest lap of the race at 1:26.82. Only 0.3 faster than the race leader, so we know Kinsella's got the pace. We know he's got the experience. I think 4 national championships with his name on it. Definitely some smoke coming from the CXC number 68 of Dylan Thomas.
under deceleration, I think we're fine. We'll watch this very closely, Dylan Thomas, and that
Sounds right.
68 number. Still going all right. There's something out there on track. Might be a little bit of rubbish going across in the background, a tear off maybe. McDonald in front, only 1.2 seconds, the difference between these two. It looks like we do have a final lap.
Last lap board is out for the 78 of Daniel Reynolds, 2007 built Checkmate chassis, JP02, so that'll be the second, I think, of the two in existence. The other one's parked away in someone's garage on display, and the checkered flag is out, and it will be the 78 with the victory. 51 in second, Alex McDonald. Now, sort of Alex came into the mix late, taking advantage of some of the other drivers getting together.